Hi all. I apologize for not updating my a conversation with myself commentary during the last month. I was busy with various things concerning family and other activities, but now I'm mostly back, and I figured it's time to do chapter 3. It's currently not really near the end of the month, but it's getting good there, so I'll just go for this. This chapter mostly concerns, as you can see, vacations, family, cats, and Christianity. So let's begin. During my earlier years, my life greatly focused around my upbringing. While school of course dictated how I was taught, a great deal of what I learned came from my experiences revolving around my family's interest, and this is honestly the greatest effect on how I came to be the person I am today. These experiences revolved around 4 concepts: summer vacations, the clashing lifestyles of my family on my father's side and the family on my mother's side, cats and to a lesser extent dogs, and my views on Christianity. As stated previously, the Anglicanism had a major impact on how I was raised. Many values were instilled into my being from the deacon's sermons to the Bible stories. What's more, my family members were all very active participants at the Anglican Cathedral Church of All Saints in Halifax. Specifically, my grandfather was very active in his participation at the church. I spent much of my earlier life in church, as well as activities that revolved around it. I was part of the children's church choir, and later the adult church choir. I served as an acolyte and helped with the Sunday church services as well as a church greeter. I also took part in the church youth group. Again, as stated previously, the family on my mother's side was of a different Christian sect than my father's. Specifically, they hailed from the Presbyterian Church of Canada, a denomination that has been traced back to the Church of Scotland. While I was never really taught Presbyterian values, I could plainly see the actions on my mother's family. My mother's family practiced the teachings of the church both during Sunday service but also at home. This was obvious to their devotion of the saying the grace before every meal and readings from the Bible at home, and their participation in running the Christian camp I previously stated. Up until the time I reinstated my beliefs in and completed my Anglican confirmation course, I as well was an active participant of the church. But without a doubt, my belief in the church swayed as a result of my own and other siblings' reactions to the words and actions of my family. Specifically, time presses on, nothing can continue to exist isolated from everything else. From the experiences told by my siblings to the actions and words that I observed from my family members, I gradually began to lose faith in my church and Christianity as a whole. Much of this I can attribute to the reactions of family on my mother's side, where their devotion to the faith was outgoing and easily readable. However, I can only attribute their reactions as lighting a match. The fire that spread was through my comparison of my faith to what was going on in the world. To some extent, blame can also be placed on Islam as well, for my rejection of Christianity as a whole. The Bible espouses many good things on how one should live their life, but without a doubt it also professes other things that are simply outdated, disproven, or denounced in today's world. Additionally, it also contradicts itself. This, of course, is well known to anyone in their right mind, but it's important to realize that Christianity derives its teachings from the Bible. Due to this, there has been a resistance to concepts such as in the world being round, the sun being the center of the universe, and slavery. We see this today as well, such as opposition to same-sex marriage. Apart from what the Bible gets wrong or right, it is also a matter of me simply not agreeing with it. A common example one will note from the Bible is that of a shepherd and sheep. This is noteworthy because the teachings pertain to its support of blind faith. In today's world, this is a dangerous concept. No one is responsible for yourself but you, and you should always be wary of what you do. The aspects in particular for my grandfather that I experienced during my time living with him greatly revolved around his service to the church, his yearly summer retreat down to the countryside, and his time as a member of the local curling club. More often than not, I experienced this firsthand as I helped my grandfather out in his later years, or ended up having to follow him since I had no other options as where to go. This is nowhere more apparent than the fact that I was too young to be left alone, and often went with him at the end of the school year to live in his rented cottage about 40 minutes outside the city. I would stay there during the summer and only come back about a week before school started for next year. The experience at his cottage was notable, as my grandfather did not have a cable television hooked up like he did at home, and there was no computers, video game consoles, or any other accessories to be found. Instead, there were the generic channels from the local television stations that everyone got with the old rabbit ear antennae, board games, decks of cards, and what fun could be had outside the cottage. It should be noted that there was some fun to be had outside the cottage. A local and popular sandy beach, a lake which I had access to with a boat, an old arcade where you paid quarters to play, and many art cottages and cabins where kids my age would play. This is just the stuff I had access to every day as well. Sometimes special events occurred, such as the yearly parade, a handful of auctions, time spent fishing, or other promotional events of sorts. Of course, it still became a place after a while that I just began to dread. I guess I'm a city kid through and through, as things like mosquitoes and black flies, a lack of the ability to use a computer and the internet, or the fact that the local water was tainted would just sort of annoy me. Regardless of where my grandfather was down at his cottage or home in the city, helping out at the local curling club, or devoting time to church, a common feeling about him was that he was always doing a job that needed to be done. My grandfather was a handyman that would fix things, do the odd job that needed to be done, or provide a service for others. He would mow the lawn at the local curling club. As it got longer, and as he got along in his years, it was me who was mowing the lawn. He would be at home constructing a shelf or fixing an appliance that caught his fancy, and outside of Sundays, it wasn't necessarily uncommon for him to go to church to help out with duties for the congregation. It was these aspects of my grandfather that I greatly respected, that he was greatly respected for by friends and family, as someone you could turn to help out with your problems, or just count on to handle a task properly. It was also these aspects that I believe I came to somewhat emulate as well. My grandfather was the poster boy for the Protestant work ethic. He worked hard, was careful of his money, and he had accumulated a tidy sum to live out his days with. If something needed to be done, he would do it, without pause, and he would put forth his best effort to get it done well. I've already mentioned about how he had requested I do not drink a lot of milk. Part of this was due to the fact that milk was expensive, and where possible I should be attempting to drink other beverages. Even when eating out, he is very conservative with his money, and it wasn't that uncommon that the place he chose to eat would be McDonald's. I say emulate him for his Protestant work ethic, and that I believe that hard work will earn respect, and that careful use of money is important if one wants to save it. My friends often comment about the amount of money that I had in my own bank account in regards to my careful savings of what I earned for work. Probably one of the things that I personally love about my family is our pets, namely the many cats that I grew up with, and dogs. Almost all my aunts and uncles, along with my grandparents, had at one point owned, interacted, and cared for a cat. Many of the cats that I specifically spent time with lived with my grandparents, two of which I helped care for when I moved in with my grandparents. Of those two, I am still caring for one of them to this day. This isn't to say, however, that my family is full of cat lovers. My grandfather, for example, is mostly indifferent to him. He had mostly brought cats to his household from a farm because a farmer had a litter of kittens he didn't want, and his way of dealing with the unwanted kittens was drowning them. Instead of letting the farmer do that to all of them, he had simply brought some of them home to be under his care. Another example of someone who doesn't care much about cats is one of my aunts on my mother's side. For her, she doesn't much care for cats' affection, as it tries to get close or on top or near her. Finally, my father is mostly tolerant of cats. While he believes a cat should be cared for well if he owns it, he is not much of one to really care for a cat. Alright, so that's mostly the 3 pages or 4 pages or so that I've written. This is a bit short, I apologize for that, but I found there wasn't really all that much I really wanted to write about. Next time, though, I'll be writing about my recent life, and to give you some hints about what that's about, it'll be my time in university, my first couple jobs and job searches and all that, and a couple of other things revolving around my sort of recent admiration of the newspaper as a source of information, online sources such as Yahoo and all that, as well as my starting to get involved with the political process. It wasn't until recently that I started to really care about elections and all that, but I'm starting to now as I get older, and I'm starting to take on more responsibilities in my life. Anyhow, hopefully it won't take a month for that one to pop up, and beyond that, I'll see you next time, whenever it's going to be posted.